not quite as cool as being called Dad, but it's pretty good anyway. And it's not nearly as cool as being the warm-up act for Patrick Goggles, which I have the honor to be here in a few minutes. So, you know, we've been in the room for about an hour. You all look a little tired. Are we fired up and ready to go? Yeah! Fired up, ready to go? Great. You know, we all know this year's going to be tough. We can't get around it. It's going to be a tough year. But the Democratic Party in this state, I believe, is pretty well positioned to do some amazing things. And it starts at the office in Casper. You know, as the Republicans recently found out, if you don't have someone paying attention to all the money stuff that goes on in your party, you pay some pretty hefty fines. Thank God we have Bill Luckett. And any of you that read a newspaper or have a computer know just what a great job Brianna Jones is doing. In just under a year, she has found a voice for this party. Who has set forward a vision for this party on financial footing and recruiting Democrats to run for office now and in the future. It's an amazing truck path run. Leslie, thank you very much. You know, this past February at our NTR dinner, we heard from two different personalities kind of giving keynote speeches. One, our own Dave Friedenthal, who in many ways exemplifies the Wyoming story. Growing up in Thermopolis, being U.S. Attorney, former state party chair, governor of our state. The other, the Speaker of the House in Colorado. A young man who was born in a tough neighborhood in D.C. by a single mom, raised up in poverty. And he told stories about eating powdered milk that I think blew the minds out of most people in that room. And he now is the Speaker of the House in Colorado. The thing I love about those two guys, different generations, different backgrounds, but the same hopes and dreams, and that's what the Democratic Party is all about. In a day and age of 24-hour news that is so pervasive, the other day they were talking about a bra in Japan that grows rice, and on the bottom of the thing they were talking about the English elections. I think their priorities were a little off. That's my whole issue with the society on the other side of the aisle. They're cynics. They become cynical. Things that are important no longer matter to people. Things that don't matter suddenly are the news that you read in papers that normally wouldn't merit the cost of the ink that is used to print those stories. Now, and that's my big issue with the Republican Party. I have great friends that are Republicans. My dad's a Republican. Leslie, you know that. You see him all the time up in Jackson. My issue with the Republican Party isn't their love of country or what they're trying to do. My issue with the Republican Party is that they've become cynics. They've lost hope. When the Republican Party cheers when President Obama is unsuccessful in obtaining the Olympics for Chicago, that is not hope, that is cynicism. When they mock him for being recognized with winning a Nobel Prize for Peace simply by opening a dialogue with the rest of the planet, that's not hope, that's cynicism. And when Republicans and others fall victim to the shrill cry of states' rights, and don't you find it ironic that the political party that honors and venerates Abraham Lincoln now is espousing the ideas and philosophy that he gave his life fighting against? Right. And don't you just revel the irony of how with one hand, the Republicans and their Tea Party allies give the oldest sign of disrespect to the federal government, and with the other one, they pledge allegiance to the flag. With one side of their mouth, they cry out that the government is ramming legislation down our throat too fast, and with the other side, they say government simply does not work. Which is it? Yeah. That's cynicism, that's not hope. The Speaker of the Colorado House, Terrence Carroll, spoke at our NTR dinner of the idea that this country was founded on the principle of hope. It was hope that guided people to these shores many years ago. It was hope that led 56 men to sign their death warrant on a hot day in Philadelphia in 1776. It was hope that pushed women, especially in this state, to seek the right to vote. And it was hope that caused a young preacher in Alabama to stand up against the oppressive status quo. So when the former governor of Alaska, I like Joe's the Thrilla from Wasilla, I think that's hilarious, stands in front of a recent gathering in Nashville, glances at the notes scribbled on her hands, and I don't have any notes on my hands either, and asks, how's that hopey changey thing working out for you? I find fault with her cynical attitude. The Tea Party folks and the fringe elements that they attract would have us believe that they're the most patriotic people in the country. And what's ironic about that? They have their history wrong. If you all know your history, the Tea Party folks were protesting against taxation without representation. We may feel that way in Wyoming, but there are a lot of good Democrats in this country who serve in the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate, of President of the United States. People are represented. They just don't like things the way are going because they lost a couple of years ago. But at the same time, we can't take their voices for granted. We have to listen. We saw in Massachusetts what happens when we let our guard down, when we kind of think we have things in the bag. When that happens, we lose. When we fight for every vote and every precinct and every door, we win. You probably all know the story of Tip O'Neill's beginning in politics, the old maxim, all politics is local. That a neighbor lady across the street, when he ran for city council in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the first time he lost. And he was able to figure things out in his head. He went up to Mrs. Murphy across the street. He said, Mrs. Murphy, I've mowed your lawn, I've babysat your kids, I've fixed your fence. Why didn't you vote for me? She looked him right in the eye and said, Tommy, you never asked me. We have to fight for every single vote. We're not taking anything for granted in this election year.